Salve, salve família, bem-vindos a mais um Flow. Eu sou o Igor e hoje eu vou ter uma conversa aqui em inglês também, internacional. Do meu lado aqui tem o André LAJST, vai me ajudar nessa daí. Tudo bom, cara?
Tudo bem, e você?
Obrigado aí por vir, obrigado por me ajudar a conseguir esse programa. Valeu mesmo.
Você.
And we're also talking to MOSAB Hassan YOUSEF, right? Did I say it right?
Yes, you got it.
Okay. You are a Palestinian, Israeli Palestinian. You're just a Palestinian.
I was born a Palestinian. Today I'm an American.
You're an American today.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. And we are going to talk about everything that the story around Hamas and Israel and the conflicts that are happening right now and are happening over the last decades, right? And well, esse episódio aqui é patrocinado pela Insider também, que é quem faz essa camisa aqui que eu tô usando, que é a Tech T-shirt. E, cara, talvez essa seja a sua última chance de pegar a temporada de promoções do ano, tá bom? Da Insider, tá rolando a Cyber Week. Isso significa que você consegue encontrar peças lá com uns descontos que podem chegar até 40% se você usar o cupom FLOWBF, tá bom? Então você pode entrar lá e encontrar Tech T-shirt, você pode encontrar oversize, você pode encontrar um moletom, que são as minhas peças favoritas, mas tem de tudo também. Tem cueca, tem meia, tem roupa para homem, tem roupa para mulher. E eu tenho certeza que vocês vão curtir. E dá para você completar o teu armário lá com um Insider. E se você nunca experimentou uma, talvez essa seja a sua chance também, tá bom? Tem uns presentes para os caras aqui também. Tem um presente para o André. André,
obrigado.
And there's one for you too, so you can try it.
Thank you very much.
E vocês, só entrar lá em insiderstore.com.br, tá bom? Mas se você estiver assistindo, se você estiver assistindo no vídeo, tem esse link aqui no QR Code, também tem o link na descrição para vocês aí. E aqui já tá com, esses links aqui já estão com o cupom ativado, se não, use o cupom FLOWBF, tá bom? Isso significa que você vai ganhar até 40% de desconto na tua compra lá no site da Insider, beleza? Experimenta assim, e de verdade, eu uso todo dia, então é bom mesmo, tá? Tem um emblema aí hoje também, né, Jean? Deixa eu ver o emblema aí. Olha aí vocês, ó. Tá com o maior cocão, hein, André?
Yes.
That's you.
Oh, wow.
How do you like it? Does it look like you?
I don't like the mustache. I don't like my mustache, but it's nice.
Ó, e você que tá assistindo, você pode resgatar esse emblema, é totalmente de graça, tá bom? Tudo que você precisa fazer é entrar em nv99.com.br/resgatar e aí eu duvido você botar o código, que é LAJST YOUSEF, tá bom? Tá aqui embaixo pra você que não sabe escrever essa parada, é difícil mesmo, mas tem 24 horas pra resgatar esse emblema e depois a gente só vai, na verdade depois só vai ter acesso quem resgatou nesse período, tá bom? Você também não pode mandar mensagem porque esse episódio é gravado e a gente vai começar agora, tá bom? So, MOSAB, I know a little of your story. I know that you were part of the Hamas for a while, right? And the first thing I'd like to know is how does the brainwash work? How do they convince people that they should be, I don't know, blowing themselves up or I don't know, fighting Israel? What's the thing? What's happening there? Is the objective to destroy Israel? What is happening? What happens actually?
Okay. First of all, this is not my size.
Okay,
So
we'll fix that.
I need my size.
Okay, we'll fix that.
Second, Hamas indoctrination, Middle East. This is the conditioning process. You know, it's an ongoing process of turning humanity into utilities in the hands of politicians and religious authorities. So it's not a strange phenomena. It's everywhere. You take on a society and you condition them in a certain way. So the children of Gaza at this stage, let's say, have been indoctrinated to serve Hamas, who serves Iran, who serves sometimes Russia, who serves some other times Arab Gulf countries. And the children of Gaza have been caught up in this fire. Infinite forces coming from the west, the east, using the cause,
Uh-huh,
the Palestinian cause.
So it's not. You would say that it's not really the Palestinian cause. It's about some other kind of power.
It's about a cause, and the moment you say the cause, everybody has a cause, right?
Yeah.
Even though they are driven by, let's say, personal desires, but they cannot say this is what motivates me. What motivates me is the cause. So this is the hypothetical third party that everybody needs to blame or to credit. So it's not brainwashing.
Okay.
Brainwashing, you take somebody who's already conditioned and you brainwash them through a systematic process. But to grow up in a certain culture where basically everything in your surroundings is shaping you,
Okay.
and unconsciously you're adapting to that environment where you end up serving that system. Now the question, do you have the power to break free from that system, or you don't have the courage to drop your identity that is made in that conditioning process?
What gave you that courage? That courage?
I don't claim that it's courage. Others say, and I really don't care what it is. But I prefer to be free than being in slavery. I prefer to do the things that I like to do without concern of what people are going to say or what they're going to judge.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that sounds what any human being would prefer. But as long as they knew that was an option, right? Because sometimes some cultures, they might make you think that it's not a possibility to be to think different from I don't know, the leaders or something. But what kind of advantage, if any, did you have for being the son of one of the founders of Hamas?
This is the trick. The trick is not only intimidation, it's also temptation. So being a son of a well-known leader in a certain country, let's say a parliament member, a president, a prime minister, a powerful man, you are at the center of power, especially if you are the oldest. So you have status, you have security. We did not have lots of money in our family. We had access, but we are not very wealthy, but very powerful.
Okay.
Very influential.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is my father's game, power. This is what he's addicted to, a lot more than wealth. And being
it's
part...
more seducing, I suppose.
Of course, it's more intoxicating than money. So in that culture, this was my connection, that from that power, I received security, privilege, advantages.
But still, you were imprisoned sometimes, right? What about 4 times? How many times were you imprisoned?
First arrest was a very short one when I was only 10 or 12. Then after that, at the age of 18, I was arrested. At the age of 20, I was arrested. Then at the age of 24 was the last time. I spent in total 27 months in Israeli prisons. But believe it or not, that gives you status in that society.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's very interesting because when you study counterterrorism and you study the structure, when Israel goes and jails someone that is very young, inside of prison they raise ranks, because if Israel thinks you are important in order to come to arrest you, it means you are important even if you are not beforehand.
I understand.
Right.
It's crazy. Well, that's. I've talked to some Palestinian people or people who are whose parents are Palestinian. They live in Brazil, and they told me something interesting that I had never thought about before. Like Gaza is an open air prison. I've heard that, from Palestinians. And would you care to comment about that? Is that true? Does Israel really keep Gaza citizens under such pressure that it resembles a prison?
First of all, the concept of imprisonment is a relative concept, because true imprisonment is to be imprisoned to a certain belief. Let's begin with that. When I was in prison, my third time, I was the freer person in my life at that time. And I was in a very small, fenced area with nothing, with no resources. But I felt super free. So from personal experience, truly our real imprisonment, when we are victims to a belief, to establishment, in slavery, to a certain society that wants us to say certain things and to do certain things. So this is one part of imprisonment. Now, if we're talking about a small territory of Gaza under a lockdown, it's true. But have we asked ourselves why? Why the lockdown? About 17 years, the international community asked Hamas movement to do one thing. To recognize the state of Israel right to exist as a member of the United Nations. And Hamas refused completely.
In your opinion, is that absurd? Like the existence of Israel?
To Hamas, Israel does not have the right, even though we have close to 10 million people who were born in that land. I'm not talking about migrants. I'm talking about, okay, let's say a third or fourth generation migrants, but it doesn't matter where their ancestors came from. What really matters is that they were born in this land. And they are not only birth certificates, they are human beings. They have the birthright to be there. And what Hamas want from this 10 million people, they want them to relocate. It doesn't matter where the hell they go. So this is Hamas mentality. Hence, we have the siege over Gaza, which it became imprisonment. And for about 17 years, the people of Gaza have been useless, without power, to stand against Hamas and fight and say, you don't represent us. Your ideology is bringing wrath of the devil over our heads. And we simply want our freedom. Instead, they voted for Hamas. Instead, they dwelled in cowardice. They did not fight the good fight to emancipate themselves. So this type of collective consciousness, when it's in this type of imprisonment, and this is why I said the imprisonment to a belief, to ideology, to politics, then to the governor, that they are afraid. They have something to lose. They are afraid to die. Then the outcome of such a disease is imprisonment.
Yeah, and about that, I'd say that the people in Gaza, even though they voted for Hamas, I suppose it was not really a choice, right? Just like you said, it's they're afraid, they have stuff to lose, they could die, right? So voting for Hamas would maybe give them some kind of survivability through some time, maybe. And so I don't think it was, I don't know, I wasn't there. But I suppose it wasn't really a choice, right? Because Hamas seems to have a very good way of indoctrination, just like you said. And they are such a cultural force that it makes people really believe that they are, if you don't go with them, maybe you are some kind of traitor or something. And so they had to vote for Hamas and, I don't know, bend their knees to their will. And in this way, do you think that Gaza people, the citizens who live there, they really would like to get rid of Hamas, the Palestinian people?
Now, when Hamas was elected, that was before the first big war with Israel.
Uh-huh.
So I cannot imagine how much Gaza changed over the years. And the impact of 5 major wars where thousands of people died because of Hamas stunts and because of Hamas gamble.
Okay.
Now,
What do you call gamble? What
gamble, it's when your, let's say, children are starving and you take every resource you have and you go to the casino.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But in Hamas case, they are gambling with children's blood. How many children do we need to die so we can achieve our ideological goals? So this is why I say gambling with children's blood. And this is practically what Hamas did, because they don't care how many children die. Now, the Hamas game, if you think, if you understand the point that Hamas is not a national group, they are not fighting on behalf of a national cause. They are not fighting on behalf of the oppressed under occupation.
Mm-hmm.
That Hamas basically a savage, barbaric, ideological group that is waging a religious, holy war against other ethnicity or against other ethnic group, let's say. Then you understand that they don't believe in political borders. And they don't care for how many people are going to die. Because if they were fighting on behalf, let's say, Palestinians, then they would care about the Palestinians as under the Palestinian cause. But since they are using the Palestinians for some foreign religious agendas inspired by the Khamenei of Iran, 2,000 miles away, then do they really care about how many children are going to die? No, they don't. So the moment we understand the true nature of Hamas, that it's not a political national Palestinian organization, rather it's a religious ideological movement serving foreign agendas, then we understand that the children and the people of Gaza are caught up in this fire.
So you say that in other words that the people normally causes are for people, and when you protect a cause, you want to protect in the end of the day peoplehood, and people and lives, and what you're trying to say is that people are not important because the cause is more important than the people in order to achieve a goal which is not tangible, not concrete, made by religious fundamentalist ideology, and the people are tools.
Absolutely. This is another way to say it, but I like the way you phrase it.
Okay. So Hamas, they are. Would you say that this war, these attacks on Israel, they are, if let's say there is a world, there is a universe, they succeed, and they, I don't know, Israel is no more. Would you say that would continue to spread?
Absolutely, because we are not dealing only with Hamas. The moment one terrorist group succeed in breaking a democratic system and forcing them to compromise, beg for a ceasefire, or forcing them to sit on a negotiating table with a terrorist group, this is going to make a model for so many terrorists, Islamists, and other terrorist groups that it's possible for democracies to bend under pressure. Then, instead of having democratic systems governing the mob or the crowd, governing unconscious humanity wherever they are, to just keep things in order, we will have an absolute chaos. Because as you see, how many Hamas? Few thousands. But they brought the globe to its knees, witnessing the manslaughter in a way we never witnessed before. And sending us back to the Stone Age. I don't want to say to the dark ages of Europe, but to the Stone Age, where we are looking at pictures, say, are we in the 21st century? So the entire globe got caught up in this drama. And that's only a few thousands were able to shoot us where it hurts. And here we are. We are influenced in Brazil, in the United States, everywhere.
Yeah.
Some people don't know if we are supporting Zionists against victims. Are we supporting capitalists against communists? Who's right, who's wrong, who's the victim, who's the predator? And all this confusion. And everybody now is projecting their hatred. So you give the opportunity. When there is chaos, the forces of darkness thrive. This is from a personal experience. And this is where Hamas actually can thrive. Hamas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Bin Laden, all this model of Boko Haram, Hezbollah for sure. Thank you for bringing Hezbollah.
Palestinian Islamic Jihad.
Islamic Jihad.
Are you an expert?
On counterterrorism, yes, actually. And on groups, yes.
Yes. So we have many of those clowns. And you validate one, then the others are inspired. And if they are inspired, they want chaos. They thrive in chaos. They don't thrive in order. But can you and I, him, and the rest of the world, those who believe in dialogue, believe that, or not believe, we know that violence is a dead end. And also we don't want to be in cities that has chaos and crime and rape and destruction, where you cannot, where your daughter or your wife or your beloved one cannot walk freely in the street. This is what Hamas wants. They want to turn it into chaos so they can change the world order into an Islamic world order.
Pretty crazy.
Also, Putin wants to change the world order, and
He
China
does,
wants to change the world order. They want it communist, or they want it Islamist, or they want it different systems. And simply we say, do they qualify? Did they prove it, that their system actually can be a global system that is reliable, that is going to respect nature, earth, and the development and the evolution of humanity, of mankind? A very important point, that I don't think that democracy or the West has actually answered all the questions and the problems of the human condition. I'm not saying that we are living in a perfect world. It cannot be. It cannot be. But I prefer order over chaos.
Yeah. Some would say that Hamas is, in a way, a child of Israel. I've heard that before. That Israel kind of forced Palestinian people to create or to organize Hamas. Would you say that's true? I mean, the pressure Israel...
So you mean indirectly?
Yeah, indirectly.
This is bias. And it's another conspiracy theory.
There are many.
Of course. There is only truth, and the rest are theories. And the only way...
You were there, right? You were there. You were.
Yes.
How old were you when Hamas started?
I was born before Hamas was born.
I know that.
Yeah. So I was before Hamas. I saw Hamas birth. I saw Hamas development. I saw Hamas grow. And as I said earlier, I will witness Hamas death as well. Because humanity and human consciousness is much superior in its collectiveness than savage ideology. In my opinion, that is very temporary, because it's connected to a very short-term interest related to a territory. You know, give me more land, give me more power, give me more money. And if you don't, I am going to kill so many children. And I'm going to make you feel guilty. and I'm going to create moral crisis for the globe, and I'm going to make everybody feel miserable, and I'm going to send you back to the Stone Age. This is the attitude of Hamas. And knowing their truth, knowing them maybe more than they know themselves. I say this cannot survive because it's against the universal structure of the Creator. If this is the way how it works, humanity would be finished long time ago.
Yeah. Bye.
Just wanted to give a context about this theory of conspiracy that he mentioned, that is just a theory of conspiracy theory. So there are two aspects I think that is good to contribute. The first one is that it's anti-Semitism, because so if there is something very bad happened to Jews, so Jews create it upon themselves.
So this is
I mean, many people that mention this theory, they are trying to take out the responsibility of a group that committed a terrorist attack,
well,
and throw on the victim the responsibility of their own death.
and you're saying that it's just because you're Jewish.
No, this is one aspect. The second aspect is misinformation and lack of knowledge. So in the 70s, after Israel conquered the Gaza and West Bank from Egypt and Jordan, the PLO was expelled. And the PLO was the problem of Israel at that time.
What's a PLO?
PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization.
Okay.
They went to Jordan, then they went to Lebanon, then they went to Tunis, and they were like a Marxist, Leninist terrorist organization, secular, that did many attacks throughout the war. They hijacked planes and stuff like that. And they were trying to recruit a lot of Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. And there were many, and they were not religious. And there were religious figures, Palestinian religious figures, that they were against them because they were religious. The other were Marxist. Marxism is against religion, so they have the differences. So the religious people, they wanted to create institutions in order to bring people from the street to dawah, to religious centers.
Seems effective.
To be more focused on religion. Israel saw in the early 70s, I'm talking about 18 years before the founding of Hamas, saw with good eyes to help those with contracts in order to help to build a mosque. Or to pay a salary of imam that will teach people about love and forgiveness. Every religion has love and forgiveness. So they met with Sheikh Ahmed Yassin in the early stage, and helped him to build this network of religious institutions. This was not Hamas. This was religious institution. Afterwards, when he became more radical, then he was one of the founders together with MOSAB father, Sheikh Hassan YOUSEF, to found Hamas, and they used the previous institutions and mosques in order to radicalize the society.
Okay.
So there was no connection between the help that Israel did in the early 70s with the Hamas Foundation, which clear states for Israel destruction.
Yes.
You can add.
Do you have a question?
No, I
Sorry to interrupt.
No, this is
No.
very good. I like it.
Yeah, this is the it's because I've heard these so many times that it's all over the internet, and it brings about next thing. What tools would you say that Hamas is using to their propaganda is pretty good, right? Because when that hospital got blown up, there was that press conference where they were standing over or around lots of bodies, and they were talking about the war and stuff. And that when you see doctors and they are talking about death and they're talking about war and they're surrounded by corpses, that causes something on people, right? So it kind of makes people, it's a strong message there. So it seems to me that they are very effective, and they've been doing this very well regarding propaganda in order to turn the public opinion into their side, right? So to make people defend them, right? The terrorists and stuff like this. So what do they do to make this propaganda so efficient in a way that we don't call a terrorist act terrorism? Because that's what's happening, right?
Right. Well, I don't think that they are that genius. They are not genius at all.
We're stupid.
But no, I mean, many of the people, they just don't have the power of discernment. It's the human problem, whether they're Americans or Brazilians and it's easily we can be swayed by our emotions, and the devil would just create any picture for us. The human condition that we don't see things for what they are. So, but I tell you something. The biggest, it's not a propaganda, because why violence is not a virtue, and why violence by all the, let's say, enlightened people is always, or the use of force, I wouldn't want to say even violence. The use of force is always the last resort when all other options fall short. There is no dialogue, there is no conversation.
Nothing worked. So
nothing's worked. The last resort was the use of violence. Okay, but even with that, there are rules, there are laws that you don't cause a total and mass destruction. And what Hamas did was a genocide. It's not even the use of violence. So it's not only the use of force. It's not violence. It's not terrorism. They took it this time to a much higher level, to a genocide.
I don't know if I agree, but
Please.
It's especially because they're, correct me if I'm wrong, but the attack that it was on the 7th, yes, of what? October. They attacked a party, right?
Correct.
Is that right? And I suppose there were many people who weren't Jewish there. So a genocide, it's when you kill specific ethnicity,
No,
right?
most of the people there were Jewish, but they are not just Israelis. But most of the people, like, they knew that the party is an Israeli party inside of Israel. So the chances of having 80, 90, 95% of people are Jewish. And the fact that they committed genocide, that Mossad said, is the fact that now they are releasing without any kind of condition 12 Thai people, without 23, without asking for nothing. It looks like Entebbe. They hijacked a plane, they take out the Jews, and they keep the Jews. It's like the Holocaust. It's the same thing.
Right. Well, I tell you what defines genocide. It's motivated by a desire for ethnic cleansing.
Sure, yeah.
Now, when Hamas went beyond the fence on October 7th, they didn't know the identity of the people at the party. To them, it was all Jewish. Even they did not have, and imagine, by the way, many of them, maybe they never left Gaza to actually know that this is Thai worker, this is a farmer, this is, let's say, a Brazilian at the party, and some Brazilian people were at the party. Yeah. So when they went there, they went with the intention of ethnic cleansing against the Jewish people. And other nationalities got cut in the
this attack.
In the attack. So the intention is a genocide. And genocide, when Hamas, I don't know if you watched the massacre film.
I didn't, no.
Which basically documented by their own cameras, by their own cell phones. For most of their acts, the cameras were found on the bodies of those savages after they got killed later, after many, many hours of manslaughter. Now, when they moved systematically from door to door, throwing grenades on people, executing people in their living rooms, in their bathrooms, throwing a grenade on a father as his 8-year-old son and daughter watch the death of their father. Then killing pregnant women, getting the baby out of the belly of a pregnant woman. There are footage of something like this. Raping women on their way. When they wiped out entire communities, total of 13 communities, house to house, door to door, burning, destroying, killing, raping, everything in their way. This exceeds the definition of a genocide. In fact, there is no human language or terminology that can describe the feeling of thousands of people who were slaughtered in that day. Pure darkness in action, embodiment of evil at its peak that we haven't witnessed in our lifetime. And this is why what happened on October 7th, it was not a terrorist attack or a violent attack motivated by nationalism or motivated, let's say, by hatred even. Hatred is very underestimating the situation. So yes, and as outcome of that, Arabs died in the attack. More than how many? 80? Thank you for educating me today on this, because I did not even know about this detail. We have about 80 Arabs, Muslims from nearby Israeli Arab village.
Yeah.
That of a majority actually Muslims, committed, devoted Muslims. It happened that they were working force in those communities, and 80 of them were killed on the hands of Hamas. How many Thai workers? We saw the Thai people, the most peaceful people. I lived many years in Thailand. The most peaceful people in the world, hardworking. They come in all the way from Asia to make living and send some money to their families. We saw Hamas members with a shovel trying to cut someone's head, tirelessly, repeatedly hitting the poor guy, trying to cut his head with a shovel as the world watch. Who does that? Hamas killed the DJ. Who kills the DJ? Well, once you kill the DJ, the party is over. There is nothing left. You know, people celebrating life, people dancing, people making love, people having fun. You know, you go into that party and you just tell them, here is your worst nightmare. You know, savages exist, evil exists. So now, if we see things for what they are, what happened on October, is why I know you disagreed with me and you had your idea of a genocide, but I guarantee you that after watching Hamas on filming of their own action, my life will never be the same.
There's something that makes our, I suppose, that the fact of being so far from where it's actually happening, Brazil is very far from the Middle East, the information, it comes biased, it comes incomplete, and I suppose many people here don't even know what's really happening. About these recordings you were talking about, I didn't even know about them. So, and it's the kind of information that's really hard to get the truth around here, because one, it's very far. Two, they're disclosed in a way that makes you you're not sure if you're reading or if you're listening to the truth, you know. So there are many things happening there that are a little cloudy. You can't really see them through like as the truth, you know. And I suppose that makes public opinion sway in different ways depending on who's giving that information. So first of all, you can say that what happened, it wasn't a violent attack, a terrorist attack, a genocidal attack, or something like that. I think you're right. But what comes next, the way it gets public, this information gets public, it's very hazy, so you don't really know what's happening. And I've seen some very educated people defending what happened and standing against Israel or something, but I'm not sure if they're being misinformation, or if they're being evil, you know. So this way of learning the truth is very confusing. So we don't really know what's happening, because, well, if I hear from André what's happening there, I tend to believe it's a little biased, because you're Jewish, because you are a Zionist. And when I hear what's happening there from a Palestinian person, I've had them here, so I expect their opinion to be a little biased. So it's very difficult to know what's really going on, because they're saying completely different things, you know? So I suppose that makes our life here, when trying to learn the truth, very difficult. And that's why it's important to talk to you, I think, right? And to you too. I'm not saying that I don't believe you.
No.
I'm just saying that some people might hear what you're saying with a little bit of disbelief, because
I have a theory about
he's
that.
a Zionist.
Actually. I think that you can go both ways. A Palestinian or an Israeli, a Zionism, the belief of the existence of a Jewish state. That's it. It's not about politics and occupation and settlements. It's just the belief of existing a Jewish state. So a person that is part of the history has the ability to understand the history, to understand the facts, to know the language, to live in that place. So I think that at the same time that a Palestinian or Israeli can be biased, a Palestinian and Israeli are the only ones that have the possibility to know the 100% the truth.
That's right. It becomes a little more hard. It
Because
becomes harder.
And they have to decide to speak the truth, to know the facts, and to develop into a person that the nationality is not important, but the truth and values are important at the same time. So when people say to me, I can't believe you because Israeli, it means that because I'm Israeli, I am kind of affected and I am blind, and the nationality,
And you're indoctrinated.
you know, and the nationality becomes a major power that affect my judgment of what is right and what is wrong. And this is wrong. This is a wrong way of thinking, in my opinion. It means that because of my decision to go there and live there, I got affected my judgment, which is a human condition. Doesn't matter which place you are born. It's a human condition of understanding facts and knowing the facts and history. And despite that, I went to academy. I did a BA and a master's and a PhD student. So I am focused on that for 20 years, and studying and learning and reading and watching and speaking the language and living in that place and fighting the war. So it's not that I went to study, business administration. It's because I'm Israeli, I'm talking about Israel. No, I could not go there and also study a lot of that issue. So I think that I think that the way the construction of that argument is wrong for people that say, because you're Israeli, you are biased. Because you're Jewish, you are biased. Because you're Palestinian, you are biased. You have a Palestinian here. So they're going to say, oh, there is always but. And they cannot see, they are not even convinced there is nothing you can do in order to show the evidence. They say that there is no attack. Then you show the evidence. Oh, this is fabricated. And then
Right. But it's in principle, it's the human denial.
Yeah.
It's the human denial. Because if the other to agree with your point of view or with your truth means that they need to get out of their comfort zone.
Sure, yeah.
They need to contradict their belief now. And this is where it's not comfortable, it's not convenient. So the version of truth that we really like very much, we like the convenient truth. We don't like the inconvenient truth that gets us out of our comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I speak from a personal experience, my struggle with truth. Then even let's say you arrived at a certain dimension of truth, which is elusive. It's not even a paradox, it's a matrix. Infinite dimensions. This is the truth. So speaking of truth is a big deal. You know, no, I don't claim that I convey the truth, because I cannot. But I live truthfully. That's a very different story. Now, how do I have the medium? Do I have the human language that convey the truth that I have lived?
Mm-hmm.
I only have two-dimensional language to describe multi-dimensional reality. Any human language will fall short. Hence, the delivery is incomplete. Then on the other side, there is a denier who does not want to listen. It doesn't matter how powerful or rational you are, because they are going to choose whatever they are going to believe. And this is why I said many times, the alternative to the simple truth that someone who has lived it and you deny it means that you will have to live the same atrocities, the same human suffering, the same pain. And that's what human experience mostly about, pain. Otherwise, humanity is not learning anything if there is no pain. If we do something wrong against the universal design, we feel pain immediately. It burns, or it's too cold, it's uncomfortable. And this is how God or truth is guiding us towards perfection, towards emancipation, towards absolute freedom. But as long as we are resisting this truth, then we are participant in this violence. So the people, let's say, you say maybe they are evil. Yes. Actually, there are people who enjoy stories of rape. There are people who enjoy violence. There are people looking for a violent cause because this is how they project their hatred.
Uh-huh.
Otherwise, they are going to project it on the children in the neighborhood. And if they are punished, let's say, in the United States by the court of law, so they are afraid. But it's much easier to go into a cyber universe on X or on whatever it is and attack a different cause. But by doing so, what they don't understand that the cause for children to die in Gaza, because infinite forces have been at play in the Middle East, whether if it's coming from Iran, Russia, China, even the United States and the rest of the world, everybody's projecting their own hatred on the cause. So the conflict is not only between Hamas and Israel. It's a universal conflict where we bring our garbage into that region and children have been paying the price.
How do we stop that?
How do we stop the human delusion? You know, as long as we are not seeing things for what they are going to be victims and predators. They're going to be, when a majority of humanity is unconscious, is only concerned of food and security, they will be guided to the slaughterhouse eventually. So as long as the majority are sheep, and I don't mean to disrespect, but this is, as a person who traveled so many cultures, and as a person who fought against my own monsters, and I get a lot familiar with my mind. It's very easy to be a sheep. Just give the person food,
Sure.
and they are going to follow the shepherd, even though the shepherd, they think that the shepherd is their best friend. This is the problem with the sheep. So they keep following until it's too late. They find themselves in the slaughterhouse and the knife on the throat.
Uh-huh.
That's the mentality of the sheep. So, and
So I've seen you talking about this, that and you've told me before earlier about we can't bend to Hamas. We can't lose to Hamas, right? So you think the only way, and there's also the point that Hamas will not stand down, right? They're not willing to talk to solve this problem peacefully. So you suppose the only way of dealing with this is to end Hamas, right?
Absolutely.
That would mean the end of many people you know too, as like your father or something like this.
It's true.
So it's a very strong
Of course.
proposal, right?
It is, and I personally made a choice long time ago between the tribe interest and the higher interest of humanity, of collective consciousness. And I made my choice long time ago, and I paid for it. Of course, I don't disrespect my father. I always honor my parents. And it's not personal right now. Right now, it's global. Many people are dying. And if my father is inciting for death and destruction, then why he should be exception? Why should he be different than the children of Gaza? So if he's okay with thousands of children to die brutally in his war that he has been waging against Israel, I think he should be the first. Otherwise, if to encourage thousands of people to go to death, I better go first. But not go hiding somewhere in safety until everybody go die for the cause. This is deception and hypocrisy. So it's a very important point before I forget. Let's say if the Palestinian cause was a just cause. Let's say if Hamas was really a non-corrupt, loving people who are really dying on behalf of the children of Gaza, let's say hypothetically, which is not true.
Okay.
Do you think, what's more important? The suffering and the death of many innocent children, or dropping the cause completely? What's more important?
Well,
So for those who sit in comfort in Brazil or in the West and say, okay, it's justified because it's occupation. We immediately blamed it on the occupation. But what happened to the children in the process? And what's more important? A political entity that we will achieve somewhere in the future and burn generation after generation after generation. And by the way, when they arrive to this political entity called a state, a Palestinian state, they're going to find that nothing has changed. Because since when a government or a certain system would solve the human condition or guarantee the happiness, the satisfaction, the emancipation, the absolute freedom of its citizen? How many countries we have? And people are still suffering in Brazil, in the United States, everywhere. So if it's not the cure for the Gaza problem, then why to fight this infinite, endless fight in a vicious cycle of violence where we are burning children on one hand, on the other hand, Hamas leaders sitting at the Four Seasons in Doha, flying private jets. So this contrast and this gap between the actual victims of the conflict and the predator sitting on a throne of gold. So with that, this is where I have the fundamental problem. And in this case, I say, I don't care about Palestine. I prefer, even if the occupation was the biggest curse, I prefer the occupation to be the ruler, the governor of these children, because they care a lot more towards the Gaza children than the Hamas and the other Palestinian leaderships.
wow, that's a strong point you're making there. And also, but in a way, that, let's say, Israel is not, they are actually trying to own the region. Like I've heard some claims, like they have never stopped expanding. They are going through some land that are not assigned to Israel. I've heard that. Okay.
Yeah, it's the combined maps. The combined maps.
Yes.
You know, the combined maps.
Yes.
They put together the maps of the
Jordan.
Palestine region during the Ottoman period. And
There was no Palestine.
Yeah, I
to
know,
begin with.
but they do that in order to create the lie.
That's the point.
So they put the Palestine during the Ottoman period, which was not Palestine state.
Yeah, and
then the Pew, not the Pew Commission, but they put the General Assembly of the partition plan, and then they put the borders of '67, which is a little bit smaller, and then they put. The Palestinian Authority, which is actually the first land that was governed by Palestinian leaders in history.
Right.
Since
And also they
94.
bring victims from Syria that were killed many years ago, and they say those are the victims of Gaza. And people don't know the difference. They just see death. But more than how many hundreds of thousands died in Syria? 400,000, 500,000?
400,000, no,
Civilians?
yeah, but 4,000 Palestinians in Syria died during the conflict.
During that war. So now you can take the footage from Syria and say that this is happening in Gaza now. And this is Hamas propaganda. And the rest of the world look, oh my God. But this is not actually Gaza at all. That's the game.
Yeah, but what you just said the last time, it kind of, well, some people would say that it justifies, not justifies, but that would give Israel the right to keep expanding, right? For example, so they care a lot more about our children, so let's give them land.
I see.
So let's just let them, I don't know, overtake land that were not assigned to them. And that's some people would say that, right?
Well, I tell you something. Back in 1947, prior to the establishment of the State of Israel and becoming a member of the United Nations and the international recognition of this newborn state, the United Nations and the international community gave the Arabs the chance to build a Palestinian state, an Arab state, side by side the State of Israel. And now we are talking about a very small land. It's built on the Mediterranean Sea. A very small, it's like the beach, then comes the hill, and it's finished. This is what it is. I can ride from the Mediterranean Sea to the Jordanian River. If I go a little bit fast, I can cut the whole thing under an hour. This is how short the entire thing. So the United Nations thought it was a very good idea to tell, okay, we do 2 states, 2 countries, 2 ethnicities in such a small, short belt. So, okay, let's say that they were genius about their idea. Those who, I'm sure, they were sitting far away, never been to the territory, they don't know how big it is, how many square kilometers. Then they decided the future of generations. So let's say if that was a smart idea to do, why Arabs did not take that opportunity and build a Palestinian state back in 1948?
Well, that is a very good question.
So that's the first question. Then second, what they did, they said, no, first we need to destroy the State of Israel as a condition to build a Palestinian state. So their focus was not to build a Palestinian state or a Palestinian nation. Their focus has been to destroy the State of Israel, to annihilate the State of Israel. They came back in 1967, united all Arab countries. Israel was extremely outnumbered with an attempt to destroy the State of Israel. And a miracle happened. They lost the war, and Israel, very minority, very small army, one nation versus hundreds of millions of Arabs, and they lost the war. The Arabs still don't know how they lost the war against Israel. And probably Israel doesn't know how they won the war. So now Israel, as a result of that war, controlled the territory where the United Nations proposed a potential Arab country next to the State of Israel. And that's the West Bank. That's the West Bank, that's the Gaza today. Now, I'll ask you a question. Who decides the future or the control of this territory? The victor who won the war, or the defeated who initiated the war? So if we want to talk about justice, in my opinion, before the 1967 war, yes, the Arabs could claim and say, yeah, you know, this is a territory, a promise was given to us by the international community. But when they choose violence as the only option, not dialogue, not negotiations, not coexistence with Israel, then Israel is not obligated to negotiate with the Arabs regarding this territory, because the new territory in 1967 was the territory controlled by Israel as outcome of their victory against invaders came from Iraq, from Syria, from Egypt, from many other Arab countries. So Hamas today is repeating the same mistake. Israel withdrew from Gaza many years ago, and they told them, hey, you have a beach place, make it into a paradise. But they did not want to recognize Israel's right to exist. Then the international community, it was not only Israel, the international community kept Gaza under siege until they come to realize that they have to realize and recognize Israel's right to exist. But instead of doing it the easy way, to repeat the same mistake the Arabs did back in 1948. What they said, no, we are going to invade the communities and ethnically cleanse everybody in our way. And now Israel what did? Went back into Gaza, took control of Gaza. So we ask the question one more time. Who will write the terms to the other? The victor or the defeated? If Israel win the war in Gaza, this war, I think they will have the right to decide the fate of Gaza and to decide the fate of the West Bank. So we're not talking about expanding territory because they want to steal the territory from the Arabs.
Well, I've heard that too, but on the other side.
Yes, it's just a propaganda. It's making the mistake, then they blame Israel, blame the international community, and play the victim card all the time. But you started this chaos, you started this mess in 1967 and all the wars that followed. 99% of the wars, the Arab wars did against the state of Israel, the Arab initiated it. What does that tell you? Israel has the power. If it was for them to control Jordan and to be expanding their territory by the means of force, they could have done it many years ago.
The thing is that this argument that people that you call other side, he's also Palestinian, so it's not other side. I mean, this is the side of the academic truth, or academic or just bullshit and lies, and Israel went out from Gaza 80% in 1995. And then the other 20% in 2005. Which land they are trying to grab? I mean, people are saying that Israel will control Gaza again and build settlements. This is nonsense.
I've heard about
nothing going to happen. Israel will not control annex Gaza. There is no legitimacy to do it. Israel doesn't want to do it. There is no political wish to do it.
Yes, but nobody can guarantee. We don't know. How do we know?
Politically,
no, Israel does not have the intention, but Israel also doesn't know the future. Because
I mean, security control for some
the
years,
Palestinians, you mean?
For some years.
But listen, nobody is thinking about the possibility how the war is going to end.
Yeah.
Because the war is not finished yet. And if things keep escalating, and let's say Israel has to pay a big price in Gaza, where mass murdering against its soldiers as they are trying to restore order on the southern border. Let's say if Hamas had a surprise, a chemical weapon that they are going to throw on an Israeli city. if Iran would get involved in this war, if Hezbollah would get involved in this war, then we are talking about a regional war, could be World War III. And after that, if things can go in a way that nobody is predicting today, then if the price that Israel has to pay because of the war in Gaza is a very high price, then I'm afraid there could be the relocation of Palestinians in Gaza and in the West Bank. And you cannot blame Israel. If Israel today, after October 7th, will never see the Palestinians as safe neighbors ever again. The Palestinians, Hamas, they opened the wounds of Holocaust history. And this is what they don't understand, that now the Jewish people in Israel, their biggest concern is not about territory. Israel is already a superpower. And what makes Israel a superpower, not because how many square kilometers they have. It's their economy, it's their genius, it's their intelligence, it's their connection to the rest of the world, it's their contribution to life, it's their innovation. This what's make Israel does not count it like Hamas. You know how many square kilometers I have, and the more territory I have, the more powerful. No, Israel is a very small country, yet very powerful, and they know it's not about how much land I have. But for Israel, if you look at it from security point of view, do I want to have a community that close to my border where they can cut the fence any time and surprise me by wiping out an entire community? So for all the Israeli Jewish strategy from this point on, they will have to take this security threat into consideration. That's why I say it's really too early to decide even the fate of Gaza. There could be a possibility that Palestinians have lost everything they had because of Hamas genocide committed on October 7th. And honestly, I will not blame Israel for whatever they're going to do to make sure that their communities will be secured.
Why do you think the other, like Iran or Hezbollah, why they're not in open war along with Hamas?
Because of the United States. Because I think their original plan, and this is from day one, I asked my president, the US president, I asked him on a national TV multiple times that you need to move the American nuclear power to the Middle East. Of course, I'm not advocating, I'm not asking him to use it. But for someone who's son of that region and understand the Arabian ego, if they don't see power, they are not threatened. And if the United States of America was not behind Israel in this war, Iran, Hezbollah, Houthis, even Iraqi Shia forces, including Syria, would be all united, hitting Israel on multiple fronts simultaneously. But the only thing that's changed, the United States sent its nuclear power. And that's what changed the game. That they saw the determination of the United States that we are not going to let Iran, we're not going to let Hezbollah and the wild cards like Hamas, Islamic Jihad, all orchestrated by Putin of Russia.
Is that a fact?
Look,
it's a theory.
Okay, I tell you what is a fact. What Hamas delegations did on multiple trips to Moscow over the last 2 years. What were they doing with the KGB? What is the connection between the Russian administration and Hamas terrorist group? What's the Russian interest? Then what's the Russian interest with Hezbollah, who fought side by side in Syria with the Russians to save Assad regime? And what is the relation between Russia and Iran that provide them with drones to attack in Ukraine? Then we can ask also, what is the connection between Ukraine war and what happened in the Middle East? Because the moment Hamas ignited the war in the Middle East, nobody talked about Ukraine. Everybody forgot about Ukraine. And this is exactly what Putin wanted. Could be coincidence that Putin said, oh, that was a very good day for me because nobody now is talking about Ukraine. But you know why it was also a very good day for him? Because his birthday on October 7th.
Wow, that's a big coincidence.
What a coincidence. So I'm not, I don't like conspiracy theories,
Uh-huh.
you know, but there is something there. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the exact theory, but there are facts on the ground that we cannot ignore. So basically, the United States of America as basically the superpower. Look at the situation from this perspective. Doesn't look at it from emotional point of view. This is why many Americans saying, you know, we don't give Israel the support, but the US government say it's not about Israel. It's about the global security. And if we don't go to the region now, what will happen? Iran would be more aggressive, Hezbollah would get involved, and we have a regional war could lead to a global war. And that's a responsibility of the superpower.
Uh-huh.
This is why, you know, you are bombing Hamas, civilians are dying, and it's devastating. It's devastating, but there is no way around it. You will have to deal with a very dirty war savages started in order to bring chaos under control.
That's a very difficult decision to make, right? Killing, I mean, civilians will get caught and stuff. And do you think that if Hamas is defeated, we're going to have some kind of peace in the region?
Yeah, we'll get to this point. But about killing civilians and civilian casualties during war, is there a war without civilians dying?
I suppose not.
How many millions died during World War II?
Uh-huh.
You know, before the United States drop a very dirty bomb or two bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and that was the only time when humanity had to say, okay, enough is enough, we stop. The United States had to wipe out entire cities, women, children, women, human race. And that was the only time where the war stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why I say we are all taking part in this war. And many of us, by the name of peace, this is the danger.
Mm-hmm.
They're just saying ceasefire, or saying pro-Palestine. Well, is it actually pro-Palestine or is it anti-Israel? Is it pro-Palestinian children or is it anti-Semitism? So you don't know the real motive. Then, and all of them in the same street, participating in the same crowd, and each individual projecting their own hatred. Mm-hmm. But you don't know their real motive. They could be actually unconscious of their real motive. This is the problem of humanity. So I say, okay, if you want war, it looks like a majority of humanity seems to be frustrated and looking for a revolution. Maybe we are in debt. Maybe we hit a dead end in our civilization, and we really so desperate for change. So we want a revolution. And many times I said, if we choose a revolution, then we have to be willing to pay the price because it is going to be in blood.
That's what they did.
This is what Hamas did. This is what's happening in the Middle East. And if we want to take it to a much bigger scale, to become global into a World War III, because we are so tired of our systems and we want a radical, quick change, then many of us will die in this pursuit. The alternative to that is to make the war stop in the Middle East. Just make it stop in Gaza. And that does not happen by calling for a ceasefire before eradicating the savages who would start a war tomorrow. They wouldn't hesitate starting another war. So the correct view, as someone who knows the region very well, that eradicating Hamas is inevitable. We remove them from power. Then after that, systematically, we need to eradicate their ideology by bringing education. Then after that, towards peace and stability, we need to build economy. We need more education. Then we need to let the people heal. This is going to take some time. If we have the correct foundations and the correct vision, then peace will happen on its own. But now to talk about peace while everybody's dying and bombs, and now it's up to the gun. It's not up to the rational mind. And this is why in war it's chaos. And I think the best we could do is to contain the situation. And again, containing the situation doesn't mean escaping the responsibility by saying, okay, cease fire, quit fighting. But okay, let's say we quit fighting now. And what will happen with Hamas? They
will heal. They'll come back.
They will stay in power. They will get legitimacy. They will prove to themselves and to their likes around the world that violence works. Then we will have to deal with a much bigger monster.
Yeah. So, but is it effective to try to end Hamas in this war while their leaders are in another country? I mean,
they are leaders in Gaza and outside Gaza, but there are 3-4 important leaders, despite the commanders of divisions, but there are 3 or 4 leaders, Mohammed Def, Yahya Sinwar, and others, in Gaza right now.
Okay.
And of course, there are the international, what they call the international political portfolio in Doha. And
yeah. So being in Doha makes
they will probably will be assassinated by the Israeli Secret Service one day, like happened after the attacks on the Olympic Games in Munich. That the Black September assassinated 11 Israeli athletes. All the people were caught after. Took some years, but they were caught.
It happened
in many places in the world, by the way, in Lebanon, Syria, and in Libya.
And MOSAB, what made you? I've read some statements saying that you were blackmailed by Israel, or you were brainwashed by Israel in order to kind of change sides. And what really happened? What made you? What did you do to break free of the indoctrination?
Since my childhood, I had problems with Hamas. And since my childhood, I questioned things about that culture. And I had my trouble with the culture. I paid the price. As a child, they beat me up. Everybody beat me up. From the teacher to the parent, to the parent's friend, to their friend, in the street, in the school, by the principal in the school. I was a troublemaker. There were many, many rules that I did not like about that culture. I was tied up to a post and whipped by electric cable where I lost my breath, just like you see in slave movies, you know. Stuff like that when I was still a child. It created, it did not destroy me, but it created a rebel inside of me, and that wanted to rebel against that violence. And Hamas is part of that culture. It's a very violent culture. It's a rape culture. And I learned how to confront and how to fight for myself, because I knew that I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was just being adventurous. Yeah, and how can you just blame a kid, for breaking the rules? This is why today when I see the children of Gaza dying because of selfish leaderships who actually are going to pay the price, whether they are in Doha or in Gaza or in Moscow, wherever they are going to pay the price. And they're going to pay the bills in blood. I promise you this. I promise you this because I was part of that operation. So there was a problem between me and Hamas, and the gap kept widening until I reached a point where I was working against them, together with their worst enemy, my father's worst enemy, which is Israel. Now, you can say, did I have personal motives to fight Hamas? Yes, I did. Did I have principles to fight Hamas? Yes, I did. Was I curious to understand the other side and to understand the other world, which is the Israeli intelligence, a very mysterious world. You don't know how they work. I had many motives that brought me to work against Hamas. This is my own truth. And as we discussed earlier, it doesn't matter how many times I'm going to repeat it or try to explain it. of how it came about, it will continue to be irrelevant to an outsider, because they will just decide whatever that help them in their denial. Because it's very easy to sit outside and judge. But I dare any of those who think that they are judges to step into my shoes for even a moment, because my truth will crush them, will level them. And I know what it takes to be truthful. I know what it takes to go against the flow of a society. I know what it takes to die for who you are, for your all false identities of self, to drop it, to crucify yourself, you know, and hence comes my connection to Christ consciousness, that I know what it really means. So they can sit outside on the sidewalk and think they can judge giants for living. And I say, all those who sit outside and judge, I see midgets, and I'm not concerned of their opinions.
Well, okay, not about their opinions, but you do live a dangerous life, right? You
Do I?
Well, I suppose so, because there were some security guards here to check the room and the.
Do they have guns?
I suppose so. Yeah.
He risked his life.
He does every day.
No, but when he was working with Israelis to avoid the terrorist attacks, one of the attacks was against Shimon Peres, right? And
I've read about it.
And he was risking his life in order to save lives every day.
Yeah.
But Shimon Peres is dead anyway.
Yeah, because he died as a
natural death.
Totally natural death. But
Yes.
he was president at the time, and
He was the foreign minister. Yeah, we had information, but it was a teamwork. And I agree with you. It's there is danger. There is a threat. But if we are profound in our truth, and we are so profound in our understanding, then we are secure in our own flesh. And this is the main source of security. The security outside now, you see, is provided because we have a public event and also can be a threat to the entire community.
Sure, yeah.
But when I'm on my own, I don't walk around with security. I don't walk around with guns. If you are secure with yourself, then this is your best security. And death eventually will happen. And in fact, you know what I learned? That the most dangerous place is your bed and your bedroom. This is where 95% of humanity die. In their beds.
Well, that's a good statistic, right?
So for me, it's I prefer to stay in freedom. And if death comes, we are infinite. We are consciousness. The body is a permanent state and it will decay. More importantly, not to have a moral decay, not to have a rotten consciousness that is below animal. So this is how I choose to live, and if death occurs, then it is going to be my absolute freedom.
Whoa, okay. You've been living in the United States for what, 20 years?
I migrated to the United States back in 2007.
Okay, what do you think is what is your goal in your life right now? What message would you like the world to hear? Is that what you're trying to do, to spread the message, or how things really work in the Middle East? What you're trying to do? I mean, why do you put yourself in a position where you are a top voice in this kind of conflict?
You know, it was all accidental.
Okay.
And this is the way it works, I think. there is karma, and we cannot control everything. Because, for example, I wrote the book about my experience in Hamas. This one, yes. That was about close to 15 years ago. Did I see that Hamas would carry such an attack and it become a global a global situation? I did not arrange it. So you cannot make up stuff like this. And did I represent myself as a top voice on the thing? I was living a very simple life on a small island prior to that war, and everybody started calling, you gotta come back. And I was literally living shirtless and barefoot. This is what I did, free diving every day of my life. I'm far away from the Middle East and all this problem. I was not confronting anybody. But everybody started calling, you gotta come back, you have to say a word. And I had the responsibility, first of all, towards my country, United States. Because many people in the United States were and still confused. There is lots of hatred. And some insider needed to come and talk to public. So this became an obligation, a moral obligation towards my country. The country actually that took me after my own family and my own tribe rejected me. So the least way to say how I say thank you to my country. So I never represent myself as the advocate of the cause now, or the top voice, or the one with the cause to change the world with a great message. I don't have a message. There is no such a thing as message. What message? Message of now? Message of yesterday? And do I want actually people to stuck with my message today? I limit them. It's not my right. If I want to do something, I like a good fight. And when I see a just fight, even though going against the flow of a majority, especially, and I know that it's a righteous fight, then I take on the task because I love good fights.
That's nice.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Also very dangerous.
We could finish with that, but I have a question. Many people that were going to be seeing this consider themselves pro-Palestinians, are part of the left, or even part of the extreme left, which are protesting in the streets with Hamas flags. Many of those are not Arabs or not Palestinians, are Brazilians.
They don't even know what's happening.
Yeah, they don't even know what's happening.
They don't know even what Palestine is.
Probably.
Yeah.
Or where is Gaza. But many people that feel very pity about and pain about what's going on in Gaza get very angry with Israel, and of course they blame this kind of destruction, and they compare the number of deaths, and they are not specialists in the conflict, and in the end of the day, it creates more problems of hate and division, and this became a polarized issue in many other countries. Brazil is not as polarized with this issue as England or Canada or the United States, where you have thousands of people in the protesting and violence, and actually physical violence. But we have people in Brazil that don't understand about what's going on there. They don't understand the history of Hamas. Of course, what you said, that they are not a freedom movement. They are a religious fundamental movement, not a national movement. But in the end of the day, we have to try to explain. I try to explain all the time the difference between different aspects of the conflict. Which kind of, if you may give one message or one answer to those that are watching, that are going to the streets every Sunday or every Saturday, or they call themselves pro-Palestinians, which is okay to be pro-Palestinians, the people. But they, in the way of being pro-Palestinians, they are being pro-Hamas.
They are supporting Hamas.
They are supporting Hamas.
Or they're being anti-Israel.
Or they are being anti-Israel.
Look, I'm not surprised of the mob because, again, part of them will be pro-Palestine, part of them will be anti-war, part of them will be anti-Semitism, part of them will be anti-Israel. We don't know their motive, and I don't...
Anti-American.
Or maybe they have self-hatred, the least to say. In this case, I never try to rationalize with the mob.
Wow.
Because you cannot
smart.
rationalize with the mob.
You're right.
But at least I can talk to the president of Brazil. Because when it comes to this position of responsibility, you are not just Joe Schmo on the street. Okay, the mob can be emotional. They see some photos on social media and some Iranian ghost is creating some social media account and bringing people down to the street, and the sheep is following, and they don't know even who's the master in this case and who's actually behind those accounts bringing people down to the streets. So, but for the president, who has intelligence service under him, who has all the think tanks, who has all the advisors, cannot be ignorant on the topic. And when I say ignorant, based on his statement, to compare a democratic state that is at self-defense and a savage terrorist group, and say, okay, the terrorist group is violent and the state of Israel is violent. Well, how can you compare the two cases? One case is a democracy that when they went to war, they voted on that as ministers, as a government. The government itself was dissolved and a unity government was built with all parties, left, right, center. They brought all the leaders of the country, all the veterans, all the philosophers, the thinkers, and they waited before they started the war. While Hamas had a secret plan and they launched a genocide. They did not launch a war in self-defense to eradicate a savage group. They initiated a war, turning the whole region into chaos and the globe into chaos, with very sick ideology. While Israel is a civil constitution country that has Arabs, Muslims, Druze, Christians, Buddhists, Hindus, has relations to Muslim and non-Muslim nations. So now, when the president of Brazil make the comparison based on how many people died here and how many people died there, this is the judgment of an ignorant person on the street that I will not even waste my time to talk to them. But as a president, we should know the difference between a genocide, systematic killing of infants, a hostage situation. You know, Hamas committed 3 major crimes. This is what everybody who's listening need to understand. The first crime, genocide. Second crime, taking human shields. Third crime, kidnapping hostages to bargain for the release of Hamas mass murderers who spending tens of years in prison, back to the streets so they can carry more terrorist attacks. So now, I compare this to a modern, developed country that has all the diversity of life in it and say, why? Because there are like thousands of deaths here and thousands of deaths there, or many thousands here and many less thousands there. This is not how we weigh the situation. It's the question, why and how these people die, and why and how these people die. What's the motive behind the two forces? And what's their objective? Israel's objective is to restore order, to contain chaos. Hamas started. Hamas' objective to begin chaos and to end order. So
it's clear.
This is how we want to see it. So at least I can talk to your president to wake up. And the rest of the country, I hope that they are listening. And if they are not listening, I don't think it's going to make any difference. it would just spread more hatred if they keep acting based on ignorance of the topic at least. If they really want to take part, then educate yourself more on the topic so you can make a correct statement.
Well, thank you, MOSAB, for coming. Thank you for your time.
Thank you
It
for
was
having
very enlightening. Thank you a lot,
Thank you
really.
for having me.
André, thank you very much too. Always a
Thank
friend.
you very much. Are you going to give
We
me
are,
my
we are,
size?
but-
My size is small.
Ok, ok. Ó, gente, vocês podem encontrar esse livro aqui para saber um pouco da história do MOSAB. Ele conta aqui no livro aqui vários momentos da vida dele sobre ser o filho de um dos caras que fundou o Hamas. Tem também aqui a história das prisões dele. Então, se você quiser saber mais sobre a história mesmo profundamente dele, você consegue encontrar esse livro por aí. Beleza? André, como é que as pessoas te encontram nas redes sociais, cara?
@André LAJST, ALAJST, e pode seguir também a Stand With Us Brasil, @StandWithUs _Brasil, também
Esse Brasil é com Z ou com S?
com S.
Tá bom. Do you use social media? Would you like to tell people to follow you somewhere?
I would love to have some followers from Brazil.
Uh-huh.
They can follow me on X. Just be watchful for some fake accounts taking my name and doing all type of crazy stuff. I have only official account on X, and it's MOSAB Hassan YOUSEF.
It's your name.
It's my name, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
And he follows 0 people, so this is the account.
You noticed?
well, that helps finding you.
That's the real account.
Yeah.
He follows 0 people.
Ok. Gente, ó, vocês podem seguir tanto o MOSAB quanto o André, tá tudo aqui na descrição, tá bom? Vocês podem seguir a gente também se vocês quiserem, vai ser um prazer. E não esquece de dar o like nesse vídeo, é muito importante. Você também pode se inscrever e se quiser muito, você pode virar membro. E a gente produz conteúdo exclusivo pros membros aí toda semana, demorou? Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
E obrigado aí todo mundo que assistiu. A gente se vê.
E obrigado.
Boa.
Obrigado.
Nice one. Obrigado. I like it.
Obrigado.
You sound Brazilian already.
Because I am Brazilian.
He's a citizen of the world.
Valeu, gente. Um abraço. Tchau.